Hey everyone, my name is John Cable, Vice President of Program Management and Windows Servicing and Delivery. I'm excited to welcome you today to this technical takeoff discussion about Windows and Intune. Ramya, you want to say hello?
Yes, thank you, John. I'm Ramya Chitrakar. I'm VP of Engineering for Microsoft Intune and Windows Commercial. I'm super excited to be here, and joining me as well is Steve.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Dispensa, VP of Product for Microsoft Intune and Windows Commercial. And I too am extremely excited to be here. We've been looking forward to this conversation here for quite a while and to this entire technical takeoff event for a long time. We're all just fresh off of Ignite and excited to go deeper. And that's what Tech Takeoff is all about. So let me start by asking my colleague, Mr. Cable. John, what is on your mind these days? What's top of mind?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think that you teed it up so nicely. Just coming off of Ignite, first of all, super energized. I think I missed Ignite. It's been a couple years since going to a big conference. It was nice to have it in Seattle, a little smaller spot. Orlando, you definitely get your steps in at that conference. And so that was good. I didn't get quite the workout. And so, of course, I work on Windows 11, rolling out Windows 11. And so that was near and dear to my heart. I really wanted to get out and talk to customers about Windows 11. And I think that the big message that I have after talking to customers is kind of a come on in, the water's fine type of message. It's the same cadence you had. It's the same muscles you had. It's the same set of tools you have. And the big thing that I would throw out there to really build confidence around this keep calm and carry on or keep going with what you know approach is that when I look at our compat data and when I look at our update success data, it is as good as it has ever been. 11 to 11 is the best, for folks going from SV1 to SV2. But even the 10 to 11 data is stronger than the 10 to 10 data. And so it's really just a great time to continue to use those muscles you've been using and move forward. And so I think, that's pretty much top of mind for me. I'm sure I'll have some other things to throw in, but I'm going to take the chance to kick it over to Ramya. Ramya, how about you?
I'll thank you, John. I actually want to add on the point that you just made about meeting people, and for me, I plus one to what you just said, Cable, on the customer meetings. It's just been so tremendously energizing to meet customers, to hear from them. Many of these customers we've actually spoken to over the last 2 years, virtually, but now finally seeing them in person, and they felt the same way coming to Ignite, meeting all the product makers, meeting the teams that build the stuff that they are using, have questions about, and having that one-to-one conversations, I think was very, very impactful. And the last thing for me was seeing the themes of our investment resonate with these customers, right? Whether it is attached to the cloud, whether it is upgrading to Windows 11, whether it is the security investments that we are making, seeing those themes that are matching what customers are also seeing and kind of meeting them where they are. I think to me that popped through various conversations with customers. In any case, Steve, you started the question, so I'd like to pose the same one back to you. What would you like to share some of your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. I always want to share some of my thoughts. But actually, I really agree with what you and John said. I mean, look, Ignite was incredible, even though it was so tiny this year compared to years past. I was groaning a little bit about how much my feet hurt last time we did Orlando, John. So, that part was an improvement. But the thing is, somebody told me this, and I thought it was really very appropriate. It's not just going from 2D meetings to three-dimensional meetings. It's actually, there's a fourth dimension there, which is the energy level that you get when you're directly in the room with somebody and you can really have that interactive conversation. And I just missed it, it's a little bit, I knew I missed it, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until the last couple of months when I've really been back in front of, customers in conference rooms and in presentation auditoriums and so on. It's really been good. Lots of interesting conversations with those customers about the other things that are top of mind for me. First of all, the advanced management bundle we announced at Ignite, we had sort of announced a little bit back in April. And we gave a lot of new detail on what's coming in the advanced management bundle, which GAs in March. Very excited for that. Lots of energy there. We also talked a lot about Windows 11, John, and especially to your point about kind of when's the right time to upgrade. That I really love the way you made the point. In fact, I want to ask you about it in a minute. But the notion of app compatibility being at least as good, if not better, than going from 10 to 10 is pretty amazing. And that drove a lot of conversation. The other one that was interesting was just the security investments in Windows 11. We've made a ton of investments in security. I can come back to those later. But, the world isn't getting to be any easier to operate in with the rise of hybrid work, with zero trust, with the sort of geopolitical context we all operate in. Security has never been more important. And Windows 11 has an unmatched security posture. And customers were definitely asking me about that as well. And then the last thing that's on my mind is really, look, we're in a world where in an average company, half or so of the devices will support Windows 11 and half won't. And obviously every customer is different, but a lot of customers are asking me, hey, how do I navigate that environment? And so I had a lot of conversations about running 10 and 11 side by side, where you're running 11 on every device that supports it and 10 on every device that doesn't, and how easy that is to kind of make that work. So that's top of mind for me so far, and there's been a lot of interesting stuff here.
Yeah, Steve, the point on the customer meetings, especially on 10 and 11 and waiting to upgrade, you and I were both in a few meetings where I feel like we were able to change the perspective, especially after seeing all the great security benefits, all the productivity benefits of Windows 11 and the upgrade data that John talked about earlier. I think there were a few customers that even changed their mind during the meetings that we had to say, hey, maybe I should be trying to upgrade now. So that was phenomenal in my mind. So I did have a question for you, Steve, if that's okay, based on what you just said. I would love to for you to share your thoughts on idea behind advanced management. Could you speak a little bit more about the vision for it, why we built it?
Yeah, definitely. For the last 11 years now, Intune has been in the market. And we are by far the largest endpoint management solution in the world. Both on premises and in the cloud. We have, we've been well adopted and well loved by our customers. And thank you to all of our Intune customers and users for your support over the years. It's been wonderful. Through that period of time, we've had a number of customers come to us and ask us to solve adjacent problems. So maybe not core Intune management problems, but problems that are very similar, that are close. For example, remote help is a solution that we announced in April and has been increasingly adopted. That's a solution that that allows IT help desks to connect into end users' computers and do troubleshooting and technical support over the network. We announced at Ignite a couple of weeks ago now that we'll be bringing support for remote help to Android as another one. There are lots of other ones that we've talked about, like endpoint privilege management, like advanced analytics, third-party application maintenance, and more. And the theme is, what are similar solutions, adjacent solutions to management, where Microsoft kind of has a unique point of view, and where we think we have some kind of unique value to add in the market. And so really excited. This has really largely been customers asking us to deliver these solutions. And I could not be more excited to really get the opportunity to bring these things to market over the next few months. And actually, Ramya, your team is building a lot of these solutions as our engineering VP here. I wonder, maybe you could kind of dive in on one or two of them for our audience here and explain kind of what you're building and how.
Yeah, certainly, Steve. Let me actually start off with the one that you just referred to, is the endpoint privilege management. Oh my goodness, the response from customers, the response that we've got for endpoint privilege management, along with the other features part of the advanced management suite, has just been phenomenal. And it is especially so because of the landscape we are in today with respect to the sophistication of the security attacks, right? And we know that over time, the risks that go with running with full admin privileges, every single, and Steve, I've been in this space for good decade and a half, and I have heard this through my entire career. The end users running as full admin with full admin rights, and the risks that go with it, and that's just getting worse day by day. And this feature ultimately gives the capability to have end users run as standard users. And at the same time, the minute we think about standard users, the thing that comes to IT mind is, well, there are support costs that go with it, because if end users start running as standard users, that means somebody's got to help them to do their critical stuff, right? Install applications, install printers. This is where something like EPM or endpoint privilege management comes in. It gives you the ability to define what gets elevated, very specifically what applications, etc., get elevated and when. So it allows you to, through Intune, to define those conditions. And here is the beauty of it all. Being Microsoft, we have the benefit of working through the entire stack. So here we are working on configuring these controls through Intune on the cloud, and we are working with our folks, with John's team on the Windows side of things to make sure that security is built right into the OS, right? And we are able to configure this, and so you are able to see the full end-to-end solution. And again, it's been such an amazing collaboration working with John's team on this to make sure that we are doing it the right way. So we validate our solution, we make sure that the end-to-end story is built rock solid, and the security benefits, the cost savings benefits that go with it, and ultimately end user productivity. I think the combination of those three things is absolutely stunning. Now, I do want to add one more, Steve, on the advanced management is the analytics point. You also mentioned analytics. And throughout Ignite, you would have noticed the theme where we are trying to enable doing more with less. And here is where analytics plays a crucial role. IT wants their end user experience to be amazing, right? It's about their productivity, but to ultimately create an experience that end users thrive in. So, analytics gives you those tools to be able to get that data from end users' devices, run machine learning and AI on it to create those insights for IT, so that they can be made aware of issues before they happen or before end users start getting impacted for their productivity. And we also offer solutions, right? Contextual solutions and recommendations to overcome those problems. So you can see how powerful this is in today's world of being, cost effective and enabling end user experiences. Analytics is the key to bringing this together. And like I said, as Microsoft, I think we are in the best position to do this because we own the full stack. In fact, on that very note, John, it would be great if you can share some thoughts on the responses at Ignite about Windows 11 and other benefits from it.
Yeah, sure. I would be happy to, Rami. In fact, you totally have me inspired, when you talk about being able to be predictive and using some AI and machine learning. I have definitely been in the update space for a long time. That was my joke at parties when you meet people, other parents at the school or something like that. They're like, "So what do you do?" And you're like, "Well, do you know how your computer reboots every month?" Yeah, that's me. And so definitely in the update space. There's a really fun story there around a product called Windows Update for Business, or WOOFB. I was mentioning that to my wife the other day, and she's like, "You named a product WOOFB," but it kind of grew organically. So the interesting thing for me is that my team, we're out there updating 1.n billion consumer devices every month, not just for Patch Tuesday, but every time there's a feature update, we roll out that feature update as well. And let me tell you, we've learned a few things in the last 5 years on how to roll out updates. And this idea of machine learning and AI that you talked about is at the centerpiece of how we roll out updates. The first thing we do is we study the population. We know all of the combinations of hardware and software out there. We pick small representative sets, and we make the update available to those small representative sets and carefully study how the update performs in that representative step. And based on that, then we can smartly and slowly expand the scope of a rollout, always getting more data on more devices, more hardware and software combinations, and slowly accelerating the rollout in what we call as fast as safe. And if we spot a combination of something that isn't working, a specific app or on a specific piece of hardware, maybe a driver issue, we can put something in place called a safeguard hold to essentially prevent the update from rolling out to that specific combination until we've figured out how to fix it. And this has just been so powerful for us internally as we roll out Windows to over 1 billion consumer devices. And so if you are an IT person, you're probably thinking, John, why are you telling me this? I don't roll out to consumer devices. I have a giant estate that I need to control. And that's why I'm telling you, because we essentially took that technology that we've been using to successfully roll out at massive scale and turned it into this product Windows Update for Business. And so now we're essentially offering this to you as a service. It will intelligently create rings for you. You can do smart things like take all of your execs out of the early rings so you don't roll out to them first or get in trouble. You know, it's funny, but this comes up a lot internally and externally. So there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of control, all of the safeguards come to you, and you can essentially leverage this Windows Update for Business technology to do rollouts in your own estate. We were excited. You know, I talk about being passionate and wanting to go to Ignite and see customers using the technology you've been working on. We were so humbled and honored to go and have people come up to us and talk about how they were thrilled to be using some specific features we have in preview. Expedite and drivers and firmware are two. Many people are like, okay, you know, Microsoft, you're great at rolling out these updates. Can you help me out with drivers and firmware? Because that's becoming more and more of an issue for me. And so we're thrilled to have drivers and firmware update service in private preview right now, or maybe it's public preview. I'd have to check, honestly. People at Ignite were using it, so it must be some kind of preview. And then also Expedite. The idea of Expedite is, let's say there's an update and it's just got a super nasty security issue. And like the NSA or someone has come out and said, oh my gosh, this update is super important. You're worried about it. You can pull out all the stops and have that update go immediately to your entire estate to make sure that you remain secure. So I kind of took your question, Ramya, and went off a little bit on a tangent about the Woofy stuff because we're excited about it and we're excited to see our customers.
We are excited too.
Yeah, and you know, Steve's team, the Intune team has just been doing a great job surfacing a lot of the great work we've been doing in this place.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership, and a bunch of my conversations were about this exact area, John. And actually, there's a related one, if you don't mind if I bug you on. You mentioned at the top, in your top of mind, about the very high success rates that we're seeing on upgrades from 11 to 11. Can you let us peek behind the curtains? How do you do it? How does your team actually do that at the scale you do?
Yeah, we're excited because the update rate that in the last meeting that I sat in, where Samita on my team was looking at the update rate, and this was to SV2, you know, it was almost 4 nines. It was a 99.98% success,
That's
which
awesome.
it's at least 1.5 points higher than we had, you know, with 10 to 10. And geez, 5 or 6 points higher than the early days of 7 to 10. And so I will tell you that a lot of that, you know, you ask how, a lot of that is 5 years of engineers just going and getting all of the bugs out of the update stack and us figuring out how to build remediation tools and spot common issues. And so, you know, I'd love to say, oh, it's some magical new tech we discovered, but it's just hard work and paying attention to the customer situation and knowing where those blockers are. And so we're thrilled to see that. You know, the intelligence that we use that I mentioned earlier does help us there. But even then, part of the same meeting where I was reviewing that update data, I also got to see compat data. And the compat data is essentially how many machines are we blocking. I talked earlier about intelligent safeguard holds, that if they spot a certain issue with a combination of hardware and software, they'll prevent your machine from updating. And right now we are at a record low number of safeguard holds for the size of rollout we're doing, which really speaks to the health and compatibility of the product. And so I'm really thrilled about that. And that data has been stable for quite a while as we've gotten into the meat of this rollout. So super excited about that.
John, I do want to add also on the point on drivers and firmware. And Steve and I were in several meetings, and customers are raving about it, especially with the granular control. And managing drivers and firmware is no joke. I mean, you made it so easy with Windows Update for Business, and the amount of control you're able to give and flexibility for IT. I think it's just a stellar job.
Yeah, thank you. I where it's kind of born of fire. I was talking to some other people at Ignite, and I think that Spectre and Meltdown was a wake-up call for the entire industry. Yep. We've been dealing with drivers and firmware issues since long before then, but just more and more it's come to the forefront. And so I'm proud of the team. It feels like they've kind of skated to where the puck's going to be on this one, and it seems like the right product for the right time. I'll go ahead and say the one other obvious thing, for Windows 11 is that it's a big UX change. And there's a lot of people out there who are excited and like the fresh look. But of course, there's going to be people out there who are like, I don't ever want it to change. I want it to look like Windows 10 forever. But the folks that I talked to that were mostly in EDU, actually, I ran into a lot of education folks who had done pretty sizable deployments. And they said that there was not pushback, that some people it took a second for them to get used to it. But most people found it more productive, especially with regard to search. And so it's always good when you look to modernize your UX to make things more productive, to see that kind of feedback as well.
Yeah.
I love the universal mute button. I love that about Windows 11, John. So great job there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've heard the same thing in our conversations. The global mute and unmute button there on the taskbar, that's always in the same place. So you never have to go hunting, or the share directly from the taskbar. And I also heard, I've from customers just this last week about things like when you undock and redock your laptop, the windows go back where you put them instead of, Windows losing its mind. This is going to save you time, especially in a hybrid world. Snap layouts, and even under the hood things like, part of productivity is having Windows offline as little as possible. And, John, I know your team and your partner teams made good platform improvements in terms of the speed of update of Windows and the size of Windows updates themselves so that they can be streamed to devices more quickly. So all of that has a steady forward effect on making users more productive.
Yeah, we managed to reduce update sizes by almost 50%, which is huge. You think about the number of bits over the wire and the number of endpoints. It's really pretty exciting. So we're happy about it. And I know large corporations are happy to have those update sizes smaller as well, as they shoot them around even inside their own environments.
Definitely. This is an area that popped up for us in Intune really at the beginning of the pandemic, where all of a sudden lots of users were working from home, and we had a lot of people whose proxy servers started melting down because they simply weren't used to doing updates over a VPN or a proxy or whatnot. And of course, everybody deployed things like the config manager gateway, and that's been wonderful. But yeah, anything you can do like that to cut update sizes by 50%, that's just stunning and incredibly valuable, especially when you get into one of those emergency situations we talked about earlier, where you just have to stream the update to everybody quickly. So that's been really great to see the platform improvement there.
It definitely is a change. I remember an earlier Windows update. We were all excited because we were like the number one in terms of melting global CDNs behind like a holiday Xbox release. That's when it was cool to be pushing petabytes. But it's definitely about service maturity and slimming those things down so that everybody has a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been another bit of change in 11, and I alluded to this earlier, but if you don't mind, there's one other thing I just love talking about, because we just are releasing it now with Windows 11 version 2022. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of the great topics that we've talked about with 11 at Ignite. But one that I want to just punch up for this slightly more technical crowd is we released with 2022 here. I think the world's most advanced phishing protection in any endpoint operating system. And the way it works is, because of course it's Microsoft's kernel and Microsoft is operating the Azure AD and Microsoft account servers, we can see anytime your password is being sent to the wrong server. So what we're doing is we literally have kernel level hooks that are running in a secure enclave and are comparing as you type on your keyboard. If you type your password, we kind of stop the OS in its tracks. We check to make sure that the service you're connected to across the network is one of our authentication servers. And if it's not, we can either block the thing entirely, or we can at the very least throw up a red alert warning and say, hey, you're connected to what is almost certainly a phishing site. You should not send your password there. This has the capability to cut credential theft via phishing enormously. And the silver lining is, just think about how the technology works. Again, we can see when you type your password in, we can see what app you're typing it into. And so we actually also are bringing the ability to say, hey, you shouldn't be typing your password into Microsoft Word or into a SharePoint site. These are not the right places to store your credentials, and warn the user there. And of course, we can provide auditing events to the SOC for all of this. So like this piece of technology around phishing resistance, I think is going to make a huge dent in the cybersecurity landscape over the next couple of years. Really excited to get folks to deploy that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm super excited about it. I think, I just wish there was something out there that would also, stop my parents from going and buying gift cards and giving those numbers out over the phone to random people. There's one other thing I want to cover, and then Ramya, I want to hear from you about side-by-side. It's really my favorite subject. I think the one thing that I want to touch on is the hardware floor requirements for Windows 11. It's great to see us study all of our performance and crash data and make smart moves on the hardware floor to ensure that our customers are just going to have a great experience going forward on more secure and newer hardware. But I've also talked to some people at Ignite that felt that they weren't going to worry too soon about updating their in-place devices. They were just going to start using device refresh and make sure that those devices were on 11. And I would say that that's necessary, but not sufficient. You should absolutely be moving your device refresh over to 11. But again, all of those eligible devices, start piloting, start bringing them over to 11. And to tell you how easy it's going to be with side-by-side, why don't you riff on that a bit, Ramya?
Yeah, absolutely, John. In fact, we started there, in the beginning when we had conversations with customers, they did have the plan that you were mentioning, which is, we're going to have a refresh cycle. And when we get onto the refresh cycle is when we'll consider the upgrade. We had a few customers even saying, can you give us some reasons why we need to, make that sooner? We said we have all these reasons. In fact, by the end of the Ignite a week, we had more customers asking us for more data points on, the success with the upgrades and the benefits they saw from security. The anti-phish technology that Steve just walked us through, the benefits that we talked about, endpoint privilege management, these capabilities are actually attracting customers to do the upgrade now. And here is what Intune does to make it really easy for you. We completely recognize the practicality of shifting your entire estate up an OS level in one shot, and we make it really easy and consistent to have the same policies, same security baselines that you could be applying to both 10 and 11 to make the experience very consistent from IT perspective, as well as maintain the same security standard on both of them. So you really shouldn't have any reason to wait. You saw all the benefits that we get with 11. You saw all the compat metrics that John, you shared a few minutes ago. So for all these good reasons, with Intune and Config Manager, the consistency, the simplicity that you get, the security benefits, the productivity benefits, well, for all of this, I really highly encourage folks to consider upgrading and keeping them side by side, and we'll be there right with you to support them and make it as simple as possible for you. Well, with that, Steve, anything, would you like to add anything on that point? And with that, I'll also leave it to you to close us.
Sure. No, you said it perfectly. Please go deploy side by side Windows 11. Okay, great. Thank you all so much for your time here. This is just the very beginning. I am super excited to geek out with the rest of you on all the great technical content that's coming up here in Tech Takeoff. So please enjoy the event and let us know what your feedback is. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.